The world we live in is a big lie. I know this might sound way too conspiratorial, but let's be honest. Take a good look around. You turn on your television or pick up your phone, and can you really believe what politicians, advertisements, journalists, shows, influencers, and products promise? Or better yet, let's make this reflection a little more intense. Deep down, do you really believe everything your coworkers, your family, your friends, or even your husband or wife say? Yeah, when we think like that, I can understand, because I remember that in a lot of people's lives, it's don't trust anyone.
Do you trust me, son? Yes, come on, son.
Lies are everywhere and show up in all aspects of our daily lives. From someone lying that everything is fine to someone telling you a completely nonsensical story. Lies have no restrictions. They appear from the poorest to the richest, from left-wing politicians to right-wing ones, from white lies to malicious ones. Although it's disappointing to admit, lying is human. In this video, I will analyze the nature of lies and how to deal with them. I will identify the types of liars that show up in our daily lives. And above all, I will reveal the secrets of great liars that allow them to fool almost everyone.
I like liars who lie for the love of the art.
One thing I always like to say in my videos is that we need to stop being so simplistic in our opinions, so dualistic, to the point of saying things like lying is bad and telling the truth is good. Because when you dig deeper into any subject, you realize it's not that simple. So to start things off, I want to make it clear that my intention here isn't to judge lies as being good or bad, because I don't think that gets us anywhere. My intention here is to raise your awareness about lying and liars, and then I'll leave it up to you to evaluate and judge what you think about all this. But let's go. First of all, lying is never a pure and innocent act. It always carries an intention behind it. So even when you were a pure, innocent little child and told a lie, you did it to avoid punishment. You had a reason to lie, a goal. As I said at the beginning of the video, lying is in human nature. It's a resource we use to help us achieve what we want. And what I'm going to say now might even sound a bit controversial at first. Lying, just like sincerity, transparency, and kindness, is a resource that often proves to be necessary. I say this because some situations require knowing how to tell a good lie. Try, for example, firing a crazy and explosive person by telling them the truth. Tell them that you chose to fire them because of their craziness, emotional instability, or some other professional incompetence. Do you think it's worth subjecting yourself to the consequences of that truth? Or is it better to make up a story that tries to soften that crazy person's reaction, trying to keep them as calm as possible? I don't know about you, but I wouldn't risk my peace just to tell the truth to a disturbed person. To impress you, persuade you, or protect themselves from someone unstable. Every time someone lies to you, keep in mind that there's always a reason for it. I'm really stressing this point because I believe the best way to spot a lie is to have a clear idea in your mind about the intentions of the person talking to you, knowing what they intend to get out of that interaction, because that's what guides all their actions. Of course, in some situations, this becomes obvious, like when someone is trying to prove their innocence or wants to sell you something. But these intentions aren't always that obvious. And as we'll see later on, good liars know exactly how to take advantage of these situations. Everything I'm saying here applies to many other things in life. I usually say that, more than the actions themselves, we should pay attention to the reasons behind them. And I like to think this way because actions really are revealing. But you'll only really be able to understand a person when you go beyond their actions, when you can understand their motivations, their reasons why. It was with this line of thinking as a basis that I came across the work of psychologist Paul Ekman, who defined the 4 main types of liars we encounter in life. Let's get to them. The first one is the most basic and the most common of all. You can find this trait in any normal person out there. It's the social liar, the one who tells small lies to preserve relationships or avoid hurting feelings. They're basically those little lies that everyone tells throughout the day to maintain social harmony. Someone who compliments an outfit they clearly didn't like, or who makes up a polite excuse to turn down an invitation. It's the opposite of what happens in the invention of lying, which shows a society where no one ever lies.
No, I'm not going to sleep with him tonight, no. No, probably not even a kiss.
The second type of liar is the opportunistic liar, those who lie when they're caught off guard by a situation. So it's when, for example, someone is caught in an uncomfortable situation and quickly makes up an explanation to get out of it. These are improvised lies, poorly structured and unplanned. That's why these lies are hardly ever left undiscovered. This lie is meant to avoid punishment, social embarrassment, or discomfort. Jim, this isn't what it looks like. The third profile is the compulsive liar. These are people who lie constantly without any apparent need or clear advantage. These are the ones who are with you at a party and are capable of making up an absurd lie in the 5-minute break when they went to the bathroom. This type of person is even considered by many to be a disease. These people make up exaggerated stories, tell outrageous lies with the greatest ease, and they do this so often that they themselves start to believe their own stories, creating parallel realities. Compulsive liars aren't as common as the first two types I mentioned, but I guarantee that everyone knows someone like that. These are people who claim to have achieved impossible or unlikely feats, just out of a need for attention and social validation. I'll never forget when I was 14 or 15. There was a kid at my school who was overweight and hardly knew how to kick a soccer ball. He insisted and swore to everyone that he had a deal that would make him play in the next World Cup in Germany. Of course, that's a rather extreme case, but exaggeration in lies is characteristic of everyone who belongs to this group. And because of that, these people are usually already known for it. Finally, the fourth profile and the main focus of this video is the strategic liar. This is where the art of lying truly happens. When we look at the world, whether today or historically, and analyze the most influential people, it's practically inevitable to conclude that our society not only doesn't condemn liars, but actually rewards those who lie better. That's the key insight every strategic liar, knowingly or not, learns early in life. For them, lying is a tool, something they use carefully to get where they want, a technique that gets perfected over time. In fact, time is a fundamental factor in this art. Studies show that as we lie more, our brain's emotional response to lying decreases. In other words, with each new lie we tell, our remorse decreases, and our ability to lie effectively naturally improves. This obviously doesn't appear explicitly anywhere, but becoming a strategic liar is practically a prerequisite for achieving success in various areas of modern life. Just look at the politicians, effective salespeople, and influential people we have out there. They all use and abuse strategic lies to gain followers, votes, sales, or status. That's part of the game. Anyone who thinks lying is an exception is mistaken. It's the rule. And it's like this for a simple reason. Lying works. But then, what is the secret of those who are successful in the art of lying? If many people can't persuade others with the truth, how does some succeed in being convincing while lying? One thing I notice right away when analyzing strategic liars is that they don't just focus on telling a good story. They master a series of advanced observation and manipulation techniques. So first, he focuses on quickly picking up on the interests of the person he's talking to, their motivations, insecurities, pains, fears, and deepest desires. And how does a good chameleon adapt to all of that? He evaluates the environment he's in, the words he's going to use, the tone of his speech, and the approach he'll take, always trying to take into account as many variables as he can imagine. Everything is strategically calculated to create empathy, trust, and persuasion. by...
Please let me share something with the interested men and women in the audience.
That's psychologist Paul Ekman, whom I mentioned a little while ago as a reference in microfacial expressions and body language. His work actually influenced the FBI and several other international institutions. And he states that the most effective liars have a high capacity for perception. They pay attention to the smallest details of people's body language and expressions. They adjust their lies as they feel necessary so that they can increase their credibility and achieve their goals. These are exactly the people, the strategic liars, that we need to be most aware of. Here lie the potentially most dangerous lies for our lives, precisely because they are the hardest to detect. Reflecting on that, I aim to understand how these individuals operate, their tactics, and how we can protect ourselves from their traps. And now I'm going to tell you 5 strategies that these liars use to get what they want. To begin with, there's nothing better than this speech by the then President of the United States, Bill Clinton, in January of '98. He was being accused of having an affair outside his marriage with a White House intern. Notice how he speaks convincingly, calmly, and confidently in his words. But most importantly, pay attention to how he ends his speech. It's no wonder he ends his speech this way, by saying that he needed to get back to working for the American people. It's as if he's reminding people that regardless of personal controversies, there's a greater mission that needs to be accomplished, and that's what truly matters. In this way, he makes the lie seem secondary, almost insignificant, compared to his responsibilities as president. The problem is that a few months after this statement, everything finally fell apart for him. And despite all his efforts, there was no way to hide the truth anymore. So what did he do then? He came up with another speech, this time admitting to the affair he had.
I had an inappropriate relationship with Ms. Lewinsky. In fact, it was wrong. It was a critical mistake, a lapse in judgment, and a personal failure on my part, for which I am solely and completely responsible.
Spreading fear. The second strategy is based on the following premise: fear and despair sell. Check the news or see which stories are most read on a website. We will always find stories that bring dangers or threats. With that in mind, using exaggerated threats or dangers, often fictional or distorted, to generate collective fear. It's a good way to manipulate an audience into giving in to your interests. If a leader exaggerates an external threat, such as an economic crisis, terrorism, or a pandemic, he creates an environment where the public is more likely to accept radical measures that would normally be rejected. Another example is a father who wants to move and creates fear about their current neighborhood safety in his family members in order to convince them that moving is the best option. Surprise element. Remember I said earlier that the best way to spot a lie is when you understand the real intentions behind it. Well, strategic liars know this perfectly. They are aware that as long as their real intentions remain hidden, they will have more power and control over the other person. The element of surprise presents a great opportunity. By showing up at totally unexpected and seemingly casual moments, he camouflages his intentions, making the encounter seem like a simple coincidence. He approaches people he doesn't even know. He pretends not to understand. He finds a way to create an opportunity to start a conversation so that he can then lead it where he wants. The element of surprise is effective because it doesn't seem intentional, but also because it takes advantage of our tendency to let our guard down when faced with the unexpected, allowing the strategic liar to operate in a scenario with less resistance and without having their real intentions identified. False polarization. The strategy here is to artificially form two extreme sides by exaggerating and oversimplifying reality. The liar, in a very convincing way, builds a scenario that pressures people to have to choose one of the sides. Of course, he always leads them to choose what he wants. To bring a simple everyday example here, I thought of something we see happening all the time out there. For example, someone might say that Lula supporters back criminals in Brazil. Or when someone against Bolsonaro claims Bolsonaro voters are homophobic or similar. Liars create more complex polarizations, but the principle remains the same. It's about making it harder for people to notice the nuances, provoking them to identify more with one of the poles, the fake revelation. The fifth and last tactic works like this. You reveal something about yourself that few people have the courage to reveal. Something that, in theory, hurts your image, but doesn't affect you in the context in which you use it. All of this is to gain the other person's trust, but there's just one thing. This revelation is a strategic lie. So, to illustrate, let's suppose you want to find out about, a cheating incident involving the person you're talking to. You subtly act uninterested and clueless, inventing a story about a cheating incident or something similar that devastated you. A horrible situation that you don't really like to talk about, but at that moment it just slipped out. The other person will relate to what you said. She will feel comfortable to talk. And moreover, she will want to reciprocate all this sincerity and this moment of vulnerability that you were willing to share, as if she owed you, simply because you had the courage to expose something so sensitive and delicate. This is one of the lowest blows of a strategic liar, gaining someone's trust based on a lie. Now, I have a message for those who bought or are considering buying my series. In addition to the key to the 3 dimensions, I am producing a series about power and manipulation, which will be included as a bonus for those who have purchased or will purchase the key. The first episodes of this new series will begin releasing next week, all at no extra cost. For those who are interested in this video, here I explain everything you need to know about the key to the 3 dimensions.